So today, we're going to use this digital microscope to take a closer look at skin, fur, scales, and feathers. All right, I've got my digital microscope here, so we're going to take a closer look at the skin on my arm. All right, so right away, we can see that the surface of the skin is kind of bumpy. We can see some freckles here too. Now, what we think of as skin actually has a few different layers to it. This very top layer that we can see is made of dead skin cells. These cells are filled with a protein called keratin. Keratin is tough and waterproof, so it forms a barrier that helps protect the living cells that are underneath. You can also see some hairs on my skin here. These hairs can trap a little bit of heat near the surface of our skin when we're feeling chilly, and they can also help us feel sensations like wind traveling across our skin. What human skin is best at, though, is helping us cool down. Our skin is covered in tiny little holes called pores. When we're feeling too warm, sweat glands will release a little bit of water to the surface of our skin through these pores. As the sweat evaporates off of us, it helps cool down our surface temperature. All animals have to maintain a certain temperature to stay healthy. This is part of a process called homeostasis. All right, now we've talked about the covering of a human. Now let's talk about a different mammal. This is Ophelia. She is a Virginia opossum. Now right away you can see some differences and some similarities between her body coverings and ours. Now humans have thick patches of fur in a few places on our bodies, but most of her body is covered in this thick fur. Can you think of why that might be? Well, in the wintertime, humans are able to make blankets and clothing to keep us warm, but an opossum is not able to do that, so in general, she needs more fur than we do. Hair and fur are exactly the same thing, the only difference is which word you use for it. Hair is formed in hair follicles underneath the skin surface, and it's mostly made out of keratin. So, she has a couple different kinds of hairs on her. She has longer guard hairs on top, and then a shorter undercoat underneath. The guard hairs are going to help protect her from some bad weather and some physical harm, while the undercoat is going to help regulate her temperature. So let's see if we can get a closer look at these different kinds of hairs. All right, so we can see the long guard hairs there, up on top, and then if we focus in a little bit more, we can see that undercoat peeking out from underneath. Now, she does have some areas on her body where she does not have fur, so let's see if we can get a closer look at her tail here. So even though this is skin, just like we have on our arms, you can see it looks a little bit scaly, which is really, really interesting. Well, besides helping regulate her temperature and helping protect her from some bad weather, can you think of anything else that an opossum's fur might help her do? Well, opossums living further north have more white on them, and this will help them camouflage in the wintertime. So her body is covered in a way that helps her in her environment. All right, humans and opossums are both mammals, so let's take a look at a different class of animal. I have here a friend who is a reptile. This is Nox. Nox is a black rat snake. Now, snakes are what's called ectotherms, or cold-blooded. This doesn't actually mean that their blood is cold. It just means that their bodies are the same temperature as whatever is around them. So, when Nox needs to cool off, he can find a nice shady spot to curl up. When he needs to warm up, he could lay in the sun or underneath his heat lamp. So, ectotherms don't have to worry as much about their skin or their body coverings maintaining their body temperature. Reptile skin forms hard structures called scales. Snake scales kind of look like fingernails layered on top of one another. So let's take a closer look at his scales. All right, so as you can see, they do kind of look like fingernails. Now these hard scales are made up of keratin, just like our skin, the top layer of it, and just like a mammal's fur. Now his scales help him move around. They do help him keep pests out of his skin, and they also help him keep all of his water stored away tightly. Reptile scales are very good at keeping water sealed away. They want to make sure that they don't lose very much of their water. They don't have to worry so much about their fur or their skin helping maintain their temperature, since the outside environment does that for them. So their scales have evolved to make sure that their water stays nice and secure. Evolutionarily, after scales came feathers. Now we associate feathers with another class of animals, birds. I have here a feather from a great horned owl. Now feathers have many different purposes. Some of them are used for flight, others help keep birds warm, and then there are some that help birds swim. Now this feather here helped the owl fly. It split in a couple different places from human handling of the feather, so that's actually going to help us out in a minute. Now this hard part up the middle is called the shaft or the rachis. Branching off of the rachis, these diagonal lines that you see when you look at a feather up close and with the digital microscope, these are barbs. And you can see the barbs have been split apart a little bit here. So coming off of the barbs, we have barbules. And the barbules have little hooklets at the end. The hooklets help hook on to other barbules to keep the feather in place and to help secure the feather so that it protects the bird's skin underneath and helps it fly. So feathers are a covering that are useful in a lot of different ways, and there are different types of feathers for different purposes. There you have it. Animal coverings come in all textures, shapes, and colors. There's a wide variety, and each one has its own purpose in its environment. Now it's your turn to investigate at home. Always remember to give wild animals like an opossum or a snake a safe distance and observe them from far away. But if you find a super cool bug and you want to get a closer look, or if you have a family pet and you wonder what their fur looks like up close, I recommend getting a hand lens. Now this is also called a magnifying glass, and just like our digital microscope, it'll make small things look large. You can even download a magnifying app on your phone and carry that around with you. These tools will turn any trip to the park into a scientific investigation.